And now, please welcome your host for this evening, Shane Jacobson.
Thank you. G'day, folks. Welcome to all of you at home and everyone here at the Palladium at Crown in beautiful Melbourne town. I'm your roast master for this evening, but to have a roast, you need some roasters. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, first up, Christy Whelan-Brown. Joel Creasy. Tom Gleeson. Alex Lee. Rhonda Birchmore. Steve Vizard. Limo. Damien Power. Stephen Hall. And Lawrence Mooney. Okay, now before we wake the woke, before you keyboard warriors at home get to work, you can stand down. A roast is where people voluntarily turn up and take the piss out of their mates. So please don't get offended on anyone's behalf up here, because believe me, none of these people are worth fighting for or defending. Comedy roasts don't often happen in Australia, but when there's someone to roast, they don't come any bigger than this. He's a legend, he's an icon, he's barely alive, so we'd better get on with it. Please welcome the one and only John Cleese!
I have good news for you all. Australia are 15 for 1.
All right, our first roaster actually has a lot in common with John. John originally studied law, but went on to become an extraordinarily talented and much-loved comedian. And Steve Vizard also studied law. Ladies and gentlemen, a man who's aging about as well as a banana, Steve Vizard!
Banana. Your Papal Eminence, Premier Daniel Andrews, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, other members of the Commonwealth Games family, Khaleesi, Mother of Dragons. I can't begin to tell you how truly and deeply honoured I am to be standing before you tonight to accept this Lifetime Achievement Award. Truly delighted to see John Cleese. It's been a massive effort to get John here. I mean, they've had to thaw him out. We are here tonight to pay tribute to a giant of a man who has single-handedly changed the face of modern comedy. I'm pretty sure that's the phrase that John gave me. Incidentally, unlike this mob, you will not hear me belittling this man. Far be it from me to speak ill of the dead. When I think of John... Also, I have been asked to apologise for John's being on the phone incessantly. He can't stop tweeting. He's like Justin Bieber, trapped in the body of Rupert Murdoch. I think even as we speak, John is live streaming. Unfortunately, it's into his incontinence pad. John is here with his entourage, or as we in Australia call them, pallbearers. He's looking very sharp. I, of course, I'm dressed by Yves Saint Laurent. through their Dramana outlet, the Brotherhood of Saint Laurent. And of course, John himself is dressed by Tobin Brothers. I recall the very first time I saw Monty Python. I just started uni and I was still living at home with Mum and Dad. I'm pretty sure they hadn't served the eviction notice at that point. And so I must have been, I don't know, about 47, 48. And I remember Mum was in the kitchen. She was cooking dinner and I thought, oh, that's strange, because it was breakfast time. And I turned on the TV and suddenly I found myself immersed in this bizarre world of fish slapping and silly walks and dead parrots and cheese shops and boisterous Canadian lumberjack songs. And that was just Mum in the kitchen. And he was comedy unlike anything I'd ever seen before. He was a sketch without any apparent jokes in it, which incidentally was to become a hallmark of John's career. He was another sketch without an ending. The characters literally walked from one sketch into the next. And I distinctly remember thinking to myself, it was like a bombshell. God, this is really sloppy writing. And I also vividly recall one man stood out, one performer, head and shoulders above the rest. He was the star around whom this universe of silliness revolved, and his name, Eric Idle. And then there was the tall one. His name was Cleese. His name was Cleese, because John was always tall. In fact, when John emerged from his mother's womb, he was actually 4'7" tall. And he didn't like what he saw, so he crawled straight back up there again. This is a fact, by the time John was 18, he was over 6 foot tall. And get this, at 19, he was over 27.5 feet tall. It's extraordinary. John is obsessed with trying to slow down ageing. Just what the world needs, another 50 years of him droning on about dead parrots. So this is true, he's been injecting himself as part of some sort of anti-aging trial. He's obviously in the placebo group. It's It's a sort of stem cell extract. And just a tip, John, if you're going to be doing the stem cell thing, don't buy your gear from Mickey Rourke. And so when I think of John Cleese, I think of a giant. I think of a man who for nearly 6 decades has given us his remarkable gift of comedy, and who in return has only ever sought one small thing, and that is the sound of laughter.
Yes.
And money. He worships money. He's a fairly avaricious bastard. Laughter and money, and fame. Laughter, money and fame. I mean, we laugh at John wanting to live forever, and yet, in a perverse sort of a way, John's already having the last laugh because his vast body of work is already living on and will outlive us all. So, John, I say this to you from the bottom of the auto cue. It has been an honour to share the stage with you. Long may you live, long may you tweet and taunt and tease and terrify, and long may you shower us with laughter, or even just shower. John Cleese, thank you.
He's funny, he's fabulous. After the break, it's Joel Creasy.
I think John Cleese is absolutely amazing. He's an icon.
Our next roaster is Joel Creasy. Joel Creasy opened for the legendary Joan Rivers. Can you imagine that show? A comedy queen with a razor-sharp tongue and Joan Rivers. Let's give it up for Joel Creasy.
Oh, what a thrill for my show reel to be here tonight. John, welcome to Australia. I can't quite believe I'm getting to roast you. This is genuinely an honour, is what my parents told me to say, or my grandparents. And on behalf of the panel, I do hope you get the chance to meet an actual Australian celebrity while you're here, John. Apologies for this lot. This whole lineup is a bit like the reviews for your last 40 films, maybe 2 stars. It's exciting to be here tonight alongside some stars of TV, film, and by the look of it, some form of community theatre. It's a very white and male lineup. Even the Liberal Party are looking at it going, how's a bit of diversity, guys? Lucky Alex Lee is here, otherwise people might have thought that this was a rally. Monty Python, Faulty Towers, A Fish Called Wanda. John's career has been full of dizzying highs. Of course, more recently, they have been as a result of standing up too quickly. Everyone will no doubt mention that you've been married 4 times and made your ex-wives very rich, which is the only reason I can imagine Rhonda Birchmore is here. Lucky number 5, Ruda. Really should have put some more money into your super, shouldn't you? I was just thinking about you earlier in the week, Shane. I was on my phone and I hit a button and said, accept all cookies, which I assume is your mantra. All right, that's enough. Which is something you've never said, Shane. Let's look around. Tom Gleeson is here. And Tom has a lot of experience with roast. He gets roasted by the sun every time he steps outside his house. But Tom, you are a tricky one. You know, he always makes me wonder, when you were in school, were you bullied a lot or not enough? Imagine having sex with Tom Gleeson. I reckon I know that's the only thing about him that's not hard. I mean, how does your wife do it, Tom? Have a look at him. She must have a fetish for geography teachers or Make-A-Wish kids. When I look at Tom Gleeson, it really makes me question my sexuality because I think, wow, finally there's one asshole I don't want to have sex with. I'm excited Limo is here. Limo, I love you, because I saw Limo's Comedy Festival show and I think it's great that he's here tonight, finally performing for a crowd. Good work, Limo. You'll get there. You can always get a park at a Limo gig. I love that. Really stretch out. Limo's got that kind of single name level of recognition, you know, like Cher or Beyonce or Hitler. But not as funny. But I do know you, beautiful Christy Whelan-Brown, a dear friend of mine. Christy was, of course, fantastic on Dancing with the Stars. Christy, that is so exciting. Which star were you dancing with? Lawrence Mooney is here. Lawrence lost his job on breakfast radio. He's just like Santa Claus, old, fat, and got the sack. And let's wrap this up. Because after looking at you, John, I'm worried this could quickly turn from a roast into a wake. And they're not paying me enough to sit through that shit. So, John Cleese, thank you for being with us tonight. You truly put the fame in Zimmer frame. So, I'll leave you on this. It's so much fun to be up here with so many beautiful friends and such an international legend. Happy 100 years in the business, Rhonda. Congratulations.
On the other side of the break, the very funny Alex Lee and Limo. Don't go anywhere.
Ever since I stumbled across Monty Python when I was a young teen boy and split my sides laughing at Holy Grail, I've admired everything he's done. He's just fantastic.
And
Our next presenter has a 4-year-old and a 3-month-old in Sydney, but still managed to be here tonight. How does she do it? The key is neglect. Let's hear it for Alex Lee.
I feel too tall now. All right. Hello, I'm Alex Lee, and yes, I will be providing the diversity tonight. So, ni hao. We all feel better about ourselves? Great. I'm joking, of course. I don't see race, because there is none up here. Oh my God, seriously, I haven't seen this much crusty white stuff on a couch since I went to an orgy at Joel Creasy's place. Great night. Thank you for having us, Joel.
You're welcome.
Well, who have we got here for you tonight, John? I've just got basically a few balding rangers and 3 increasingly fatter versions of the same guy. Lawrence Mooney. We've never actually met, but I have seen you naked. This is true. There was a life-size naked picture of you, Lawrence, as part of the Life and Body exhibit at Melbourne Museum. And you know what, Lawrence? It's funny because everyone in the industry always told me you were a massive dick. But that was not my experience of you at all. At all. A little chode, maybe. And Lemo's here too, there he is. Now, he calls himself Australia's #1 combat comic. He's entertained the troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they keep getting him back. He's getting great feedback from the top brass. The soldiers say that after sitting through one of Lemo's sets, they no longer fear death. In fact, they welcome it. One of them said that after one of Lemo's bombs, Kuwait isn't so bad. Steve Vizard's back. Steve was the creator and star of our country's equivalent of Python, the iconic sketch series Fast Forward, where he played such wonderful characters like Annoying Gay Man and Annoying Indian Man in full brown face. What a legacy. Now, this is true. Stephen Hall, he writes science fiction adventure novels. He has won multiple TV game shows and runs the website howtowingameshows.com. Stephen, you should change that website name to howtonotgetpussy.com. Stephen, of course, also played the John Cleese roles in Spamalot and the Fawlty Towers stage show. And speaking of bad Aussie versions of beloved British comedies, congrats on Taskmaster, Tom. Christy Whelan-Brown, looking stunning as always. Look at you, a rose between 8 potatoes. Christy was born in 1982, which means she's sadly too young to have grown up watching John Cleese, but thankfully too old to have married him. And speaking of age, of course, one of the legends of Australian showbiz. Even after all these years, she still looks gorgeous, a lot of makeup on, bit of scaffolding, still holding the old girl together. But honestly, I just hope when I get to your age, I look half as good as you, Joel. Truly, it is an honour to meet you. You're always my favourite Monty Python member. I mean, after Eric Idle, obviously. And Michael Palin. And the 2 dead ones. But I like you more than Gilliam, and that's not nothing. But speaking from my generation, I grew up watching your later roles. You were King Harold in Shrek, so it was really nice of Shrek to pop by and host tonight. And you were in the Harry Potter movies, loved them. You played my favourite character, Nearly Headless Nick. It's just crazy because tonight we've got Tom Gleeson, who's a nearly hairless dick. I am honestly a big fan, John. I love everything you've ever made between 1969 and 1981. There's actually a record being broken tonight. It's very exciting. There are currently more women on stage now than in all 4 seasons of Monty Python's Flying Circus. But for me personally, I mean, watching Monty Python, it was so empowering and it really helped me find my voice as a woman in comedy. And if you'll permit me, John, I think big voice is supposed to sound like this, isn't it? I hope I did it right. So thank you for that gift. But at the end of the day, there are just so many iconic sketches and catchphrases that we have John Cleese to thank for, you know. Don't mention the war, 'tis but a scratch. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. We've got the Ministry of Silly Walks, the Dead Parrot sketch. Honestly, in terms of the sheer impact he has had on Western culture, John Cleese is basically Shakespeare.
Thank you. Thank you.
A boring old pom whose best stuff was probably written by someone else.
Next roaster is a good buddy of mine, Limo. Apart from being a top bloke, he's also quite the romantic. The first time he looked in his wife's eyes, he felt his knees go weak and his stomach turn to butterflies, and that's when he realised he'd drugged the wrong glass. Let's hear it for Limo.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here tonight at the roast of this comedy legend. Yes. What a lineup of roasters here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I'll tell you what, I've known Tom for 25 years, and I've got to say, he has not aged a day. Not a day. Mainly because he's looked 75 ever since he was 12. He's just got one of those heads, you know? He used to call himself a redhead. He's actually never had hair, ever. He's been bald his whole life. He hasn't been asked for ID since he was 9. Right? Lawrence Mooney's here tonight, Australia's Charlie Sheen, right there. That's if Charlie Sheen took the handbrake off a little bit. It's nice to have Lawrence in one of the few venues in Australia that he's not actually banned from. So, welcome, Lawrence. Now, it is amazing to be here tonight. I've seen the Oscars before, you know, where they have seat fillers. I've just never seen seat fillers on stage. Steve Vizard's here tonight. And I'd like to thank the producers from Weekend at Bernie's for making that possible. Steve looks like he's been poisoned with a nerve agent. It's just a weird, swollen Jeremy Clarkson arrangement he's got going on there. Steve was actually invited by John himself because John wanted at least one person here who looks worse than he does. So, well done. Now, we all know Shane for his work with IGA supermarkets. Yeah. I mean, clearly not the fruit and veg section. Some people did say they were surprised to see Shane at the roast. Do you think he's ever turned down a roast? But ladies and gentlemen, can we please give it up for Fawlty Towers as well? What an amazing, incredible television show. Amazing. Amazing. And look, for the younger people out there who perhaps may not be as familiar with Fawlty Towers, I'll explain it for you. It was a hit show on the ABC where a tall, balding, mentally ill man was rude to everyone for half an hour. It was like the 1970s version of Hard Quiz.
Sounds great.
I got to say, I am a bit embarrassed by this. I mean, this is John Cleese, for crying out loud. Legend of comedy for over 50 years. Who am I to roast John Cleese? I mean, who's Lawrence Mooney to roast John Cleese? Who's Tom Gleeson to roast John Cleese? I mean, who's Damien Power? Just who's Damien Power? Seriously. I have got no idea. No, Damien, I know Damien. He's an award-winning comedian, up-and-coming comedian. He'll be arriving sometime. We're not sure when. But John Cleese, you are one of my comedy heroes. You know, as a kid, I remember growing up and with my family, we would sit around and watch Fawlty Towers and laugh like loons together. You brought our family together through laughter. The first time I ever went to the drive-in was in 1980 with my dad to see Life of Brian. It was a beautiful moment for me and my dad together at the drive-in. It was incredible. And then in the 1980s, when I was at uni, me and my friends would spend entire nights at parties quoting lines from Meaning of Life and Holy Grail. And yes, we were single, in case you're wondering. But we just love those films. Then in 1988, you gifted us A Fish Called Wanda, a movie that still to this day is in my top 3 comedy films of all time. And I remember thinking then, this man can do no wrong. He will never make a dud. Whew, boy, how wrong was I? After 1989, we had classics like Beethoven's Christmas Adventure, George of the Jungle 2, Spud 3, Learning to Fly. Seriously, John, what happened in 1989? Did a gypsy put a curse on you? Did you drink paint? Did you bump your head? What happened? I must give you credit, though. You did get me through lockdown, and thank you. Thank you for that. I watched a bunch of your later movies, which was great, because I had COVID and lost my sense of taste. To be fair, though, you've worked on some amazing sequels. I've got to say, Shrek 2, Charlie's Angels 2, Pink Panther 2, Spud 2, and who could forget Divorce 2 and Divorce 3? Out of that lot, it's hard to know which one lost more money. So just say, Now, John, you have come all the way from England to be smashed by a bunch of Aussies. Now you know what it feels like to be the English cricket team. But in all seriousness, John, I love you. You've had a major impact on my life. Barely a week goes by where I don't think about you or one of your incredible films or TV shows. In fact, if you get divorced again, I'll happily marry you. Not just because I love you, but because I've seen how much money your ex-wives make out of it. So, thank you very much. Thank you, John.
She sings and dances, but thankfully he doesn't. After the break, it's Damien Power and Rhonda Birchmore.
My favourite memories of John Cleese are probably Fawlty Towers. Yeah, it doesn't matter how many times you watch it, you never get sick of it. So, always love John Cleese.
Our next roaster is here to make everyone else up here seem funnier. Put your hands together for Damien Power.
Wow, thank you. Such an honour to be here. Thanks, Shane. Actually, now I look at it, Shane looks like Limo, if Limo was trying to eat himself to death. I understand no one knows who I am, I get it, and of course I'm nervous. I mean, look, there's hundreds, maybe 1,000 people watching at home. But I'm here for the same reason as John. My ex-wife also needs a new car. Mooney made it, Lawrence Mooney made it. He made it, so that means he didn't get a DUI. That's great. Actually, Lawrence Mooney and John Cleese have a lot in common. John Cleese was a part of the secret policeman's ball, and Mooney's been arrested. Steve Vizard, what a legend. I grew up watching you, and you've changed. The look's changed, hasn't it? He has this look like, why wasn't I invited to Epstein's Island?
I was.
In 2006, Steve chased robbers down the street out of his home naked. Do you know that? And the robbers received no jail time because the judge deemed seeing his penis punishment enough. Tom Gleeson, one of my favourite stand-ups in the country. Tom had a hit show called Hard Chat. I never watched it. I assume it's about hanging out with him. Tom looks like Voldemort. If Voldemort wasn't like an evil wizard, but just a teacher. Tom is so white and thin, Mooney tried to snort him. Stephen Hall, a great game show whiz, but not on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire because, you know, to phone a friend, you have to have one. Joel Creasy is here, one of my favourite stand-ups in Australia. Joel Creasy. Joel Creasy's parents own a McDonald's in WA. But Joel doesn't eat McDonald's because it's for yucky poor people. Joel's parents are responsible for more obesity than the Uber Eats app on Shane Jacobson's phone. Finally, John Cleese, the legend, one of the greatest comedians ever. John studied at Cambridge. You'd think he'd be smart enough to get a prenup. John's on Twitter now, social media, on internet. I worry about him. I worry he's going down rabbit holes. You know what I mean? I'm worried he's going to become a conspiracy theorist. And the next Fawlty Towers remake's going to be about 9/11. John is a rich, old, white man doing this for money, you know? I bet sometimes he looks at the billionaires that went down in the submarine to see the Titanic and goes, I wish that was me. Just dead, you know, like it's quick, like... Then the fish with the light, you know the fish with the light? The fish with the light is like, is that the dude from Monty Python? He is crushed. That is crushed. But I do want to say, honestly, it's an absolute privilege and honour to be here. John, you are truly one of the biggest inspirations to me growing up, and you still are today. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Okay, a bit of a change of pace now, folks. We have a confession to make. When we booked John for the gig, we didn't actually think he would make it. So we had to cover all bases just in case. Obviously, John did make it, but we've only just discovered we have to pay Rhonda either way. So what the hell? Here is the leggy and litigious, as it turns out, Rhonda Birchmore.
Ladies and gents, your attention please. I'm here to announce the death of John Cleese. He doesn't know it yet, but this is his hell. He's been dead for half an hour, so that explains the smell. John Cleese is dead, no more silly walks. John Cleese is dead, no more boring corporate talks. John Cleese is dead, we both said our lives goodbye. He is no more, he's shuffled off, this parrot is demised. The death look tied the knot 4 times, but there'll be no number 5. If you bought tickets to his show, cross out the word live. He has fallen off his perch, he's not trying to trick us. You can say your prayers, but no one cares, not even biggest dickers. Woo! Oh, John, do you mind if I do a bit of that? Where's that leg?
Yeah, very nice, very nice.
I'm being very, very nice. John Cleese is dead, no more films with Kevin Kline. John Cleese is dead, His singing was a crime. John Cleese is dead. No more of John's report. He's very dead, as Basil said. Don't mention the war. It's dead, and that's the truth. Eric Idle's rather chuffed. We invited Connie Booth, but she told us to get stuffed. John Cleese is dead. No more Lancelot, no more Knights of Knee. We don't have time for an argument. Let's plant a shrubbery. It's time for us to say goodbye and leave you floating way up high to that bitchy shop in the sky. And we'll be there at your funeral, surrounded by your friends, lying there in your casket with your feet hanging on the end. 'Cause you were tall, not short.
Don't go anywhere. After the break, we've got Stephen Hall and Christy Whelan-Brown.
John Cleese is legendary. I grew up with him with Fawlty Towers, Monty Python, and never stopped laughing with him.
Our next roaster wrote a lot of jokes for last year's roast. So tonight, to prevent that, we've put him on the panel, broke his fingers, and took away his pen licence. Let's hear it for Stephen Hall.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you very much. And isn't Shane doing a great job tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Shane Jacobson.
Am I?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, in some ways I feel I don't quite belong in this group tonight. I'm the odd one out, the exception to the rule. You see, I actually have met and worked with John Cleese. So, sorry. I should explain. I worked with John Cleese on Fawlty Towers Live, the stage adaptation which he wrote back in 2016. The opportunity to play Basil Fawlty on stage was the gig of a lifetime, and so there was an awful lot riding on the audition. Ah, yes, I misremember it like it was yesterday. While I was waiting to audition, John came up to me and said, "Now, Stephen, as you know, we're considering you for the role of Basil. Can you do my voice?" And I said, "No." And then John said, "Oh, right. Well, can you perhaps do any of Basil's mannerisms? You know, his postures, the way he reacts to people when he despises them, and what he does when he's sucking up to them and trying to curry favour. Can you do any of those sorts of things?" And I said, "No, sorry, I can't do that, John." And by this stage, I think he was starting to get a little bit annoyed with me, because then he said, "Well, can you at least do this?"
Vielleicht ist das so, meine Leute wie dich, aber wie buchstabieren Sie Backstein? Und ich hatte gesagt, dass meine Schwester hat eine Hütte.
And I said, "No, sorry, I can't do that, John." But somehow they gave me the job anyway, and the rest, as they say, is geography. We did 155 performances of the show in an experience that truly was for me not just a career highlight, but a life highlight as well. I have been lucky enough on occasion to make John Cleese laugh. I've actually made John Cleese laugh. When you achieve that and you hear that explosive, gravelly, heaving, rasping, choking, breathless, asthmatic, frightening, hideous, elderly, wheezing...
Shut up!
Cacophony.
Shut up! Shut up!
Well...
Well, what?
It's one of the sweetest sounds there is. They say you should never meet your heroes, you're bound to be disappointed, to which I respectfully reply, bullshit. John Cleese is every bit as warm and curious...
Yes, true.
and
Come on.
Yes, he is. And easily flattered, as you could ever hope he would be. It was a once-in-a-lifetime privilege to work with him, and I've actually I've often thought I wish John Cleese was my dad. And so... John Marwood Cleese, here tonight, in front of all these people, will you adopt me?
Is this a scam?
It's yes, no answer. Just a yes, no answer.
All right. But
My dad, John Cleese!
Thank you so much.
Stephen Hall, ladies and gentlemen. Our next roaster did our Paul Hogan roast last year, and we brought her back tonight, and we're going to keep bringing her back until she gets it right. The one and only one of us knows her. Ladies and gentlemen, Christy Whelan Brown.
I just love standing next to Shane on stage. Makes me feel thin. No, honestly, it doesn't matter how many fat jokes come at you, Shane. You just keep taking them on the chins. And I've got to say, I admire you for that. And wow, isn't it amazing that they actually got Ellen DeGeneres here, all the way to Australia? Didn't even need to give that punchline, Joel. So the beautiful Alex Lee is here, and Alex has a 3-month-old baby and a toddler at home, and she's on this couch looking that gorgeous. Not a drip of vomit or snot on her, which is more than I could say for Lawrence. And Steve Vizard, haven't forgotten about you. Well, I mean, I did forget about you from like 1998 to when I ran into you backstage, and that saved me the trouble of Googling because I actually thought that you were dead. Speaking of dead, it brings me to John Cleese. Of course, some people might ask why John Cleese, comedy legend, would bother coming all the way to the very arse end of the world just to sit here and be bullied all night. Why? Hello, he went to an English private school, people. Look at him, he's totally getting off on this. Some people have some pretty hostile reactions when you mention the name John Cleese these days. I was at my local cafe the other day and I wanted to read his autobiography, but I didn't want the wokerati to have a go at me about it, so I hid it behind a copy of Mein Kampf. Now, why have some people cancelled John? Twitter may have something to do with it. Some people think the elderly have no place on social media, but not me. I actually think it's smart. A faster response time than one of those elderly medical alarms, you know. If he ever falls off the toilet and ends up on the floor, he's just be like, help, broken pelvis and blood loss, send help, retweet, thanks, guys. Another thing some people are cross about is that they think there's precious little female representation in John's body of work. That is a crock of shit. He's been married 4 times. He's been married to more women than there are on this panel. You're smashing it for women. Just wanted to do that. I recently watched Monty Python's Flying Circus for the first time, and I mean, yeah, I did wonder why the men were playing the parts of the women, and yes, there was some female objectification in certain sketches, but honestly, John, I don't hold it against you. I mean, that was just a reflection of the times. It was a time when a woman's place was in the kitchen and when men were absolute sexist pigs. That's just a historical fact. And it's not John's fault women aren't funny. Is it? While we're talking about comedy, let's talk about Fawlty Towers, because it just brought so much joy into our home. The whole family. We all still quote it to this day. And I hadn't seen it since I was young, so I watched it all again last night, and just so many things occurred to me that had just gone straight over my head. You know, Sybil Fawlty is actually the main character. She is a hardworking, capable business professional trying to navigate a demanding hospitality industry, keep up her golf game, all the time dealing with a husband who is clearly suffering with some sort of profound mood disorder. Yeah, on the surface, he's an adoring partner. Yes, Sybil, no, Sybil, anything you say, Sybil, putting up the moose head now, Sybil. But without warning, he would fly into an uncontrollable rage. He gaslights her, he threatens her, he mocks her. Behind her back, he's ogling young women and verbally, physically and racially abusing Manuel, a recently arrived asylum seeker. As the series goes on, we realise this man has serious psychological problems. He even tells Sybil that he killed 4 men in Korea. She attempts to leave the abusive relationship a few times, but she always comes back to Basil. And now there's a Fawlty Towers reboot in the works, and you've killed Sybil off. After everything she did for you. No, I think it's good. It's good because, let's be honest, there's absolutely no place for women over 50 on our television screens. Yuck. Disgusting. Who wants to see that? No offence, Rhonda. And so it appears in some sections of society, some people might have issues with John's body of work. Some people whinge and complain and say, what has John Cleese ever done for us? I mean, yeah, there was A Fish Called Wanda, sure. And Monty Python and the Holy Grail, yeah. There were 2 things John Cleese has given us. But apart from A Fish Called Wanda and, yeah, okay, yes, and Fawlty Towers. I just remembered Fawlty Towers as well. Obviously, he gave us Fawlty Towers. So apart from A Fish Called Wanda, Monty Python and the Flying Circus, the Holy Grail, Fawlty Towers, I mean, what has John Cleese... Yeah, I mean, there was Life of Brian, sure. Sure, we'll give him that. Yeah. Okay, he was in those Harry Potter movies and the James Bond films. But apart from A Fish Called Wanda, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Fawlty Towers, Monty Python's Flying Circus, Life of Brian, being in Harry Potter and James Bond movies, what has John Cleese ever done for us? Okay, come to think of it, he's done quite a lot. And so no matter how many times some people try to discredit or dismiss you or cancel you, John, there's one thing they can never, ever cancel. And that is the countless laughs you have brought to so many people over so many years, especially in my household. So, John, enjoy your time in our country. I think you'll find it's a very tolerant and welcoming place. But please don't get any ideas about staying because our aged care system's stuffed.
Despite several restraining orders, he's here anyway. Next, it's Lawrence Mooney.
Well, he's legendary, isn't he, Ali? Legendary, and we've followed him since the beginnings of his career. I'm really looking forward to Lawrence Mooney giving him a roast.
John Cleese is a man of substance. Our next roaster is a man of substance abuse. Please welcome Lawrence Mooney.
John, welcome back to Australia. I'm sure you probably have no idea who's roasting you tonight, but I can assure you it is a rich cross-section of Australian comic talent and Limo. So when you're John's age, of course, your memory starts to go. So I just want to assure you, John, you haven't forgotten who these people are. They are genuine nobodies. And while everyone else is being mean, John, I just want to say this. You are my favourite member of the Goodies. You're really... So let's start on our roasters tonight. Limo is one of my best mates in comedy. Comedy is in Limo's blood. It's a pity it's not in his act. Rhonda Birchmore, I loved seeing you in the jungle in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and now you're back. Bummer. No, I loved you in Red Hot and Rhonda. My parents took me along to that show, and it's one of my fondest and earliest memories. Rhonda's a woman who's managed to keep her slim figure for the entire 175 years of her career. Of course, we all know Shane from the movie Kenny, where he played a plumber that was surrounded by a bunch of turds, which was his inspiration behind the guest bookings tonight. Shane Jacobson is the perfect host, especially if you're a tapeworm. Wow, talk about a roomy buffet. I was chatting to Shane before the show and we were talking about COVID. His biggest fear during COVID was running out of beer, running out of toilet paper and running. John, I know you've only just landed in Australia, so you're probably not aware of the exchange rate. I'll run you through it. A pound is equal to about $1.90, which means Shane weighs about $2,000. He's a big bear of a man. Big bear of a man. That's why the producers had to hang our dinners in a tree. So that Shane couldn't get to them. You okay? You want your Ventolin? It's great to see these two great men together, Shane and John, because they are so similar. Both are actors and willing to take on any role you put in front of them. It's especially true for Shane with dinner rolls. Joel Creasy is one of my favourite comedians. I love you, Joel. Joel is so gay. I don't know whether you've picked that up, but Joel is so gay. Even RuPaul is like, whoa, tone it down a bit. It's fair to say that some of our panel members have had work done. Clearly, Joel has had some Botox, and Shane has had the opposite of liposuction. When I look at Joel Creasy, it always kind of reminds me of my daughter. Well, my daughter's favourite show, Frozen. Actually, if his name was Jowl Creasy, it'd be a good description of Steve Vizard. Christy Whelan-Brown, I love you, Christy. We've seen her sing, we've seen her dance, we've seen her act. She really is a single threat. Damien Power. His brother is Will Power, the famous IndyCar driver who drives hundreds of kilometres per hour around and around in circles. But it must run in the family. Damien's a stand-up comedian in Australia, so you're also going nowhere fast. Stephen Hall, brilliant performer, brilliant performance tonight. Stephen Hall got his start as a violent neo-Nazi opposite Russell Crowe. He was also in Romper Stomper. Stephen Hall performed in the live stage show, Fawlty Towers, as we've already heard tonight, but unfortunately it didn't take off. I can't understand it. Why wouldn't people want to pay $120 to see an episode of a sitcom done worse? Alex Lee is here, which means one thing. Ando said no. I actually have no idea who Alex is. I thought she was with you, John. Tom Gleeson. Tom Gleeson won the Gold Logie, John. Now, how do I explain what that means to you? In England, what's something that no one cares about? Okay, here's an analogy. What's something that no one cares about? Dental hygiene. So, the Gold Logie is to you what dental hygiene is. There we go. Tom Gleeson, everyone thinks he's a nice bloke. He's not a nice bloke. He's such a bad bloke, his hair killed itself. Tom is both a redhead and he's going bald. That must be like finding out your tumour has AIDS. Tom Gleeson is a Gold Logie winner, along with Steve Vizard, of course, Gold Logie winner. It's a cautionary tale, Tom. You win that thing and you could die an obese nobody. Steve and I are very close friends. This is a true story. Steve used to be my manager and mentor, which explains why my career is a shameful, scandal-ridden mockery. I learned from the best. That's enough about Steve. Let's move on to another astronomical phenomenon, by which I mean a dying star. John Cleese. John, you couldn't make Monty Python today, mostly because the idea of a cheese shop that doesn't have any cheese on the shelves was hilarious in the 70s, but today is just an accurate depiction of post-Brexit Britain. I love your work. The Holy Grail, probably my favourite. Amazing. And of course, John, you're now so old, your search for the Holy Grail is looking for a prostate specialist with thin fingers. But honestly, John, and I mean this most sincerely, I grew up watching you and I actually modelled my comedy career on Monty Python's Flying Circus by making 2/3 of it completely unwatchable. God bless you. Thank you very much. Yes,
The only people that hate him are those that truly know him. It's Tom Gleeson after the break.
Thank you.
I've personally known John and Camilla for nearly a decade, and I've been roasting John for that time. So I just enjoyed the part where I got to sit back and watch somebody else rip John a new one for a change.
George Orwell once said that after the age of 50, everyone has the face they deserve. What the hell did our next presenter do? Blow up an orphanage? You know who he is. Tom Gleeson, everybody!
When I was growing up, I was a big fan of Monty Python, but then again, I was also a fan of Bill Cosby and Rolf Harris. So I'm just bracing myself for the allegations. What's coming down the pipe, John? You spent the first half of your career creating a legacy and the second half shitting on it. And that's why you're here tonight. You've become so lazy about shitting on your career that you've come to Australia and outsourced the job to these B-grade comedians to do it for you. I mean, look at this lot. I mean, we've got Shane Jacobson, a man who created a legacy with a movie about shitting. Shane, you say yes to every gig, don't you? Every single gig. You never say no. You're like a male Rhonda Birchmore. We've got Alex Lee, who's here to make the show slightly more diverse than Monty Python's cast of 6 white men. In the 70s, diversity was having one cast member that didn't smoke. We've got Rhonda Leggy Birchmore, the female Shane Jacobson. Rhonda first saw John Cleese in the 70s, her 70s. And that was a while ago.
And look at how good I look.
Don't cheer, it only makes me stronger. Then we got Joel Creasy. You know, he's 32 years of age, but his hair's only 5 years old. Every time I watch him on Eurovision, I'm praying for another Russian invasion. And then who else did we get? We got Lawrence Mooney, who was fired from Triple M Sydney for not being sexist enough. We've got Stephen Hall over there, who was chosen by John Cleese to play Basil for Fawlty Towers Live, where an Australian group of actors recited 2 episodes that you could have watched at home on DVD. Much like the Monty Python live shows that you did at the O2 Arena, where you recited sketches that you could have watched at home on DVD, and then you recorded that performance and put that on DVD. Now, you're the most shamelessly commercial of all the Pythons. You'll happily do ads for big companies. You cash in and do cameos in big Hollywood flops. How do you keep running out of money? Like, you did the alimony tour to pay your ex-wife. Like, who was that to appeal to? Like, was that out there to appeal to all those men with multiple marriages and multi-million-dollar divorce payouts? It's just a very niche audience. Monty Python reformed to do those shows at the O2 Arena to help recover lost profits from a court ruling. When was the last time you actually performed for fun and not to clear a debt? I mean, what debt are you paying off tonight? Why else would you be here? You're so bad with money that you still have to perform at this age. So people understand your constant lack of funds, you should get a drug habit. You started the Secret Policeman's Ball to raise money for Amnesty International. How do you raise money for them when you can't raise money for yourself? So just before I go, I just wanted to say I wrote this roast after reading your recent book on creativity. So if you didn't like it, it's your fucking fault. Thank you.
Tom Gleeson, everybody!
Now to the moment I have been waiting for all night. It is time to introduce my favourite comedian of all time. They've travelled from the other side of the planet to be with us here tonight, and I could not be more excited to be on the same stage together. Without any further ado, sorry, John. John, sorry, mate. One sec. Sorry. This isn't. That wasn't my intro for you. There's just one. There's just one more person. We've got a special guest here. It won't take a moment.
One more?
Yeah, I've brought your daughter over from England.
Oh, no, not her. Oh, no. For Christ's sake.
Ladies and gentlemen, Camilla Cleese!
Well, most of you probably didn't know that he has kids. I am one of 2. I'm sure you knew he had cats and ex-wives and divorces, and probably know far too much about his controversial opinions on matters that mean nothing to him, and he knows nothing about if you follow him on Twitter. But if you've ever heard him talk about children, you've probably heard him say, "Don't have them," or "I hate them." Which, it's a little confusing and hurtful because without me, I don't know who he could underpay to take on the road with him. And if he hates kids so much, like, why did he marry one, you know? Oh, come on, be a man. No, it was actually exciting news to get a new child in the family. It's actually a new middle child in the family because she's 18 days younger than my older sister. Fucking weird, right? But it's also cool. Like, I got lucky because I have so much in common with his soulmate du jour, Mrs. John Cleese IV. Like, both of us are 6 foot and blonde, and Aquariuses have criminal records and should not be married to my dad. Mostly. But, thank you. I like to have a little fun with her in public. I call her probably the worst possible thing I could, Mommy. And I bribe my nieces and nephews to call her Grandma. They're in their late 20s, but I'll leave you with one story. Because I'm sure a lot of you can relate to having parents who are terrible with technology, or actually looking around, most of you are just terrible at technology. But during the pandemic, my dad got stuck in LA. He was actually on his way to China, of all places, and he was staying at a hotel and filmed something for a charity event that had to air within a couple of hours. So I called the hotel and I asked them if they could please print this release so that we could air the footage. And then I called my dad and I told him to sign it and send me a photo of it. And this is the photo that he sent me. I don't know why the fuck I would want that photo, because I can't see his signature and it's not for a fan. But the best part was he was alone, so he actually had to have someone come up from the front desk to take that photo for him. Oh, but I love you, Dad, so much.
After the break, we finally get to hear from the man himself, John Cleese.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, he has sat here all night and endured. It is now time for his right of reply. Ladies and gentlemen, please put it together for the one and the only, the world's funniest man in my book and everyone's book in this room and around the planet, John Cleese, ladies and gentlemen.
Never been so disappointed in my life. I mean, how can you do this to me? I mean, you asked me all the way to come to Australia for a boast. So the celebrities will boast about me and tell the TV audience what a wonderful human being I am, and how I'm extraordinarily funny and how passionate and humble and kind-hearted I am, and how I've hardly got any ego at all. And then this happens. These so-called celebrities are horrible to me. They're rude and nasty and hurtful. Where are the real celebrities? You know, like Shane Warne or Steve Irwin or wonderful Barry Humphries, right? I'll tell you where they are. They're 6 feet under, that's where they are. Because all your real celebrities are dead. Look at this lot. Celebrities? Celebrities, my ass! I've seen bigger celebrities working at supermarket checkouts. Bunch of talentless, vacuous non-entities who get chosen for this show because they're so cheap to employ, right? Except for you, Mr. Stephen Hall. I took you from your deserved obscurity and I made you a star when I cast you as the iconic Basil Fawlty, you ungrateful wretch! I only gave you the part because I felt sorry for you, because you're a ginger. And this is how you repay me. I hope you get gallstones in your brain. And stop laughing! You think this is funny? You think bullying people is funny, don't you? Well, you invented sledging, didn't you? Yes. Loathsome plebs. I mean, do you know who I am? I'm John fucking Cleese. I was the funny one in Monty Python. I'm a comedy genius and international treasure, a living legend, and something else. An icon. I'm an icon. Any other icons here tonight? You have the nerve to drag me all the way to Australia. There are planets closer to London than Australia. A horrible flight. Do you know how old and feeble and doddery I am? I get here and discover you're paying me in Australian dollars, for Christ's sake. Not proper ones, Australian ones. Highly coloured board game currency. I mean, you don't even accept it in your own shops. And then I'm insulted by these cloth-eared ne'er-do-wells. And you laughed, you morons. All descendants of criminals. And not even the smart criminals. The stupid ones that got caught. No wonder you started cheating at cricket. Remember sandpaper? Sandpaper? Fucking Aussies. I mean, what have you ever given to the world, you know, really? Well, I suppose Sydney Opera House, you know, to perform all the famous Australian operas. Oh, and you've given us Vegemite, right? Kangaroos, Tim Tams, and fucking Rupert fucking Murdoch. Thank you and good night.
Well, folks, that's it from us. Remember, be kind to strangers, but it's okay to roast your mates. Good night, Australia.
Oh, that was fun.